I want to start out with why I decided to make this application. And we were able to make this application really quickly because we could pull a lot of things from Inkwell. The same core was the same. But back about 2 years ago, I was at Disney World for a business competition. And what happened was an unshaven, unbathed man came up to us, and came up to me and my friends. And he was, and we thought he was joking at first, and this was completely ridiculous. But he said, "I don't want you to start messing with Mickey Mouse." And I thought this was a complete joke at first. But then he had red eyes, and then we soon realized that he was probably drunk, and it started to get worse. He started threatening us after that, and he was like talking about other Disney characters. We thought that we were actually pretty scared at the time. We were waiting at the bus stop though, so we managed to get onto the bus where we were with other people in time. But I mean, I want to make something that would be able to help me in case of some sort of situation like that. Again, so I made liveMan. And it's a Deadman switch. I call it liveMan since I didn't really want to call it Deadman. But so a Deadman switch is basically a switch that will activate when you let go of it. So if something happens to you, if you release the switch, it'll trigger. And what the application will do is it'll send out an alarm to monitors and also trigger out SMS alerts to friends and family. And I haven't actually implemented this, but it would be able to call the police, for example. So in this application, I have two different browsers here, and we'll assume that the monitor application may be like halfway across the world. And I'm again using WebSockets with Node.js and Meteor to handle this. So what happens is, as soon as I click this button, you'll see it says in the other browser, switch is still pressed. And this is happening all the way across the web. It could be someone all the way across the world. When I release this, it starts playing an alarm from the monitor to signify that the button has been released. And this is an alert for friends and family to be able to check into what's going on. So I actually use Keen for my application. My goal with using Keen was not sort of the traditional analytics perspective on the application, but more of a scientific thing. Because I'm collecting data here, and I have their demographic information when they register. I have a lot of information about them. So what I hope to create is a map, essentially, of where crime is occurring by demographic. And I mean, my eventual goal is to create a model where I can represent crime as a function of location and demographics. So if you're walking through a certain neighborhood, you have your phone turned on, it's telling us where you are right now. It can tell you how likely you are to be in a crime area. So right here, I have my data analysis, and this is just being pulled from Keen's analysis API. And actually, Michelle emailed me earlier and told me I was using way too many requests for their analysis API. This is our application. It just shows where alerts have been triggered by location. So it says in the US, there's 25, the most are from the US because I was testing this and I inserted some test data afterwards. But it shows you where it's occurring. And then I also have some demographic information from registering. And you'll see actually the primary one is Asian Indian because I was testing my application all the time. And then I sort of just like entered in random data after that sort of to fill in the rest. But, and yeah, that's also why it's male is the majority. But ideally, I want to be able to create an application where you're walking around the city and it'll start blaring, there'll be a notification, you're in a danger trouble zone, activate the Deadman switch. So you can get ready to trigger an alert if needed. Yeah, and again, we use Node.js and Meteor, and we were able to develop this pretty quickly because we could pull a lot of parts from Inkwell. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So would that be racial profiling?
I mean, it'll be done statistically, so I mean, it's not necessarily biased, but yeah.
Isn't there a danger of walking into a statistically dangerous area? Your phone suddenly tells you, "Whoa, you're entering a bad neighborhood." That kind of raise the chance of attack.
Well, I mean, hopefully, you'll have your phone in your pocket, and it's sort of just like you can activate it at will. So it's not really like you're like, "Oh man, I'm about to get attacked" or anything here. It's like it's going to be sort of conspicuous, but I mean, it's something that's they'll be like aware. I think if there's more awareness about these about if they're in a danger zone or not, that could be better. Like for example, I was in the parking lot alone at Disney World. I mean, compared to the rest of Disney World, that's a generally safe area, but that is probably going to be the where a concentration of these say alerts would happen. So I mean, relatively to the area around it, I mean, it would have been nice if I sort of knew that I should be a little bit careful here. I mean, this may be useful for people without common sense. But I mean, it could be useful for anyone. I mean, if I go to a new city, I don't know whether or not some places are safe or not. So, or maybe I don't have common sense. But that it could be useful and safe. But yeah.
So have you thought about the false positives problem, which is you're worried, you're walking along, nothing happens, and suddenly your parents are going, "Oh my God, it's dead." I mean, what's your answer to that one?
So I mean, I wanted to actually, I actually wanted to make it so that it would trigger an alert, but it wouldn't send out SMSs or anything unless if you did not cancel it within 10 seconds. I didn't end up doing that since I was trying to get this other keen IO type stuff working, but that would prevent false positives. And then I would also have to do that if I were to call the police, because I mean, people just like activate, they're just like, oh whoops, I forget about it, and the police come rushing to their homes. It'll be a big deal. So I mean, that kind of safety switch feature was something I was going to implement, but I didn't have time for that.
Good. Any other questions? Excellent. Thank you much.